Are you points to count on?
30 seconds until we begin. 30 seconds until we begin.
All right. 20. Yes. Get up, Dana. Get it up.
Shalom, everyone. Welcome to our Temple Beth Shalom virtual Passover Seder with myself, Andre Ivory, Program Director, our Rabbi Dana Evan Kaplan, and our Cantor Baruch Koratan. Just a notice, as you enter, you will, or if you entered already, you'll notice that your microphone is red and crossed out. That's because everyone outside of the leaders are muted for the sake of the leaders being able to lead and enjoy and hear the music and hear the readings and hear our commentary. I'm going to turn it over to the rabbi now as we begin our Seder. Chag Sameach, everyone. Have a wonderful and happy Passover.
Thank you, Andre, and welcome to everybody. I can see some of you, so if you want to wave, say hello. And I want to wish you a very happy Passover. I just wanted to show you my tie. Can anyone see my tie? You'll get points later if you can identify what the pattern is. Also have here a Seder plate, and I'm gonna just turn down the visual so you can see that. I believe this was made by Jane Barris, and it's beautiful. The shank bone looks so good, I'm almost gonna eat it in the middle of the Seder, but I'll try not to. And so you have at the very least a virtual Seder plate, but possibly you have your own real Seder plate. Also, of course, we have matzahs. And there are 3 matzahs under here. And finally, well, there's salt water. And then a big bottle, not of Manischewitz, but almost as good, Magen David, sweet, kosher, red wine. So welcome to everybody, and Chag Sameach.
As we go through as we begin our Seder, we're just going to remind ourselves of the order. I've gotten this question actually a lot this week as we've prepared. What are we going to do about everyone eating? So I'm going to get ready to go through the order of the Seder, but it's going to be just one part that's going to be out of order from the way we're going to do it. We're actually going to complete the Seder and leave the usual time for eating, the Shulchan Aruch, till the end. So we're going to try to move quickly through our Seder, so therefore you're not waiting so long to eat. So the order of our Seder is Kadesh, the blessing of the first cup of wine, Orchatz, the washing of hands, Carpus, the eating of the green vegetable, the breaking of the middle matzah, the Yachatz, Magid, the telling of the story, the Rochza, the washing of the hands before the meal, but we're going to leave that towards the end. Motzi matzah, the blessing over the matzah. The maror, the blessing over the bitter herbs. Korech, the eating of the Hillel sandwich, one of my favorites. And Shulchan Aruch, like I said, is going to be moved to the end. Safon, the afikomen, you can search in your own houses. Even if you're by yourself, hide it someplace where you might find it maybe a week from now and give yourself a prize. Barech, the blessing. After the meal, we're going to go through some psalms at that point, the Hallel. We're going to go through some more psalms, and then Nirtzah, the concluding of our Seder. And then you guys can go and enjoy. I know a lot of people have been prepping for the past few days for their meals. So let us jump right into the beginning of our Seder. pardon the little mark that is on there. I don't know why it's there, but we'll continue anyway. Here we begin our Seder.
I also wanted to mention that Andre, myself, the canner, and others, we researched a number of different Haggadot, and of course, the needs of a virtual Seder is quite a bit different from what a regular Seder might require. Many of you probably remember the Maxwell House Haggadot that they used to give away free in the supermarket. And my family used that for decades. And every March or April, my grandmother would go down to the A&P, which was then the most popular supermarket in the country, and pick up a bunch of them. And they gave them out very liberally, and we didn't realize how primitive it was. And now you can see these beautiful slides that this is a Haggadah that prepared very recently through the Visual Tefillah series at the Central Conference of American Rabbis.
All right, let us jump in. Beginning our Seder, why do we celebrate Passover? We gather tonight to celebrate the liberation of the Jewish people from slavery in Egypt more than 3,000 years ago. Our ceremony is called the Seder, a Hebrew word that means order. We read from the Haggadah, which means the telling. We tell the story of our deliverance from Egypt using symbols whose meaning we explore. These symbols are on our Seder table and on our Seder plate.
And I'll just hold up one more time the Seder plate that I showed you before. And you're familiar with these items, the moror and the shank bone, the charoset, of course, the egg, and so forth.
Jewish tradition requires that each of us act as if we had personally gone forth from Egypt. Every generation is encouraged to make the story of the Exodus their own. In accordance with this obligation, each year our Seder combines rituals and prayers developed over the millennia with contemporary readings and new practices for our joyous celebration.
By telling the story of freedom on Passover, in Hebrew Pesach, we celebrate our Jewish history. The story of the Exodus, however, is not just a Jewish story. It is a story that embodies humanity's passion for justice and freedom. Tonight, we celebrate the efforts of all people everywhere to free themselves and others from oppression. Our festive celebration is intended to be a source of inspiration and strength, gevurah, to be drawn upon by each of us throughout the year as we strive to enhance our vigilance against injustice. It is our prayer that we may be inspired to take the steps necessary to free ourselves from the forces that limit hope and freedom.
Throughout the world, families gather tonight and invite friends and neighbors of all religious beliefs and those who may be alone or unable to make their own Seder to celebrate with them, as we are doing in this virtual Seder. We're all congregating together virtually. Tonight we will learn together. We will discuss the Passover symbols, answer the 4 questions, sing songs, play games, give thanks, offer blessings, and remind one another that each of us came forth out of Egypt. We shall also eat a meal worthy of royalty and drink 4 cups of wine. Why 4 cups of wine? According to one legend, we drink 4 cups of wine because royalty drank 3 cups of wine with their meals, and we are to outdo even kings and queens in our continuing quest for freedom.
Why do we celebrate Passover? With grateful thanks, we welcome everyone to our Passover Seder. Tonight, we shall fulfill once again the Torah's instruction to remember the story of the Exodus from Egypt all the days of our lives. Whether we have many Passover memories or are experiencing our first Seder tonight, we joyfully tell the story of the Exodus as one community. let us welcome each other as if it is our first Passover celebration with the traditional words of welcome to the Seder table. Andre, can we unmute everybody for this?
Yeah, let's unmute everyone.
Oh
Hold on
my,
one
okay,
second.
ready? We're gonna unmute everyone.
Hold on one
You
second.
be there in a minute. I'll count to three, and you'll read together. Blessed are you who come. 1, 2, 3.
Blessed are you who come.
Together in Hebrew to all the women at the favor table. Sing 1, 2, 3. Baruch haba. Men at the favor table. Baruch haba.
Baruch
Haba.
Okay, hold on one second. All right, Rabbi, you're unmuted. Go ahead.
Let us welcome each other as if it is our first Passover celebration with the traditional words of welcome to the Seder table. Blessed are you who come. And we say to all the women, Baruch haba, and to all the men, Baruch haba.
Abba. How good and pleasant it is when people live together in harmony. One of my favorite songs in any occasion is Hine Matov. May these words be a blessing for all who have come to our virtual Seder table tonight. As we begin, let us say in Hebrew these words from Psalm 133, and we join together in the singing of Hine Matov.
Hine Matov u'manayim שבת אחים גם יחד, הנה מה טוב ומנעים, שבת אחים גם יחד, הנה מה טוב, שבת אחים גם יחד, הנה מה טוב, שבת אחים גם יחד, הנה מה טוב ומנעים, שבת אחים גם יחד.
As we travel along the paths of our lives, it is the people we meet who can change us. If we are willing to seek, truly open our eyes, we'll find the song within us that binds us together. Blessing for the festival candles this evening. The lighting of candles in our homes symbolizes lighting the lamps of our people, the spreading of light, joy, and the knowledge of God's ways. We light and bless the festive candles tonight, marking the joy that Passover brings into our home.
Blessed are you, eternal our God, sovereign of the universe, who sanctifies us with your commandments and has commanded us to kindle the festival lights.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu l'hadlik ner shel Yom Tov.
Amen.
Amen. And now we're going to do a blessing for the children. And so if you have children there, then please bring them forward. Adults may raise their hands above the heads of their sons. Yismecha Elohim ke'Ephraim v'kimenashe. May God bless you with the strength and faithfulness of Ephraim and the wisdom of Menashe. And if you have daughters, please raise your hands above their heads. Yismech Elohim kesara, kerivka, kerachel ukeleah. May God bless you with the strength and vision of Sarah, with the wisdom and foresight of Rebecca, with the courage and compassion of Rachel, and with the gentleness and graciousness of Leah.
We now enter our next step, but now before that, even if you have other individuals, maybe you're thinking of a son or a daughter who's not in your home with you, you can also say blessings for them, or take a moment to think about and pray for what blessings you wish upon them. Likewise for grandparents as well. So think about what you would like to say to them and bless them with this evening. We move into the next Kadesh as we get ready to say the blessing for the first cup of wine. So if you haven't pour already, get those cups ready. The Kiddush cup that holds the wine is our symbol of joy. The wine poured into the cup is our hope for life's sweetness. Together, poured to the brim, the cup reminds us of the fullness of our days. During the Seder, we will drink 4 cups of wine. Each cup symbolizes a different aspect of Passover. With the first cup, we remember God's promise to our ancestors and to every generation. V'hotzi'eti etchem metichat sivlot Mitzrayim. I will free you from the labors of the Egyptians.
And now the time has come to crack open the wine, and I'm going to pour some, trying not to spill it on my shirt. And this is the first cup of wine, and there's a very large bottle here, so I've got plenty of wine. And as you know, I only have 4 blocks to drive, and if necessary, I could easily walk. So here we go. As we drink, we celebrate this promise of freedom from slavery and oppression. From our enslavement in Egypt, we learned that there are times when bitterness is a companion to life's sweetness. And that may be very true this year especially. The story of our deliverance teaches us that a life touched by God's presence strengthens hope, providing us with the will to overcome the bitter and to rejoice in the sweetness and sanctity of every life. The Shechianu is a prayer of gratitude recited at the beginning of special times. We recite it immediately after the blessing for the first cup of wine to give thanks for opportunity to celebrate this holiday season together. We're not together, but we're together virtually, and I think we're really learning quickly how to form a virtual community, and that's a blessing in itself. Okay, are you ready? Raise your first glass of wine if you have one. Let us together raise our first cup of wine and say, join with me please, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Blessed are you, eternal our God, sovereign of the universe, creator of the fruit of the vine. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher b'charbanu mikol ha'am v'ramanu b'kol lashon v'kiddeshanu b'mitzvotav. Blessed are you, eternal our God, sovereign of the universe, creator of the fruit of the vine. Blessed are you, Adonai our God, sovereign of the universe, who has chosen us from among the peoples, exalting us by hallowing us with mitzvot. And let us say, Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddeshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu v'hadlik ne'erev. I'm going to do the High Holy one, sorry. Asher b'charbanu mikol ha'am v'romimanu mikol hashon v'kiddeshanu b'mitzvotav v'titen lanu Adonai Eloheinu b'ahava moadim l'simcha hagim uzmanim l'sason et yom chag hamatzot hazeh zman Rotenu mikra kodesh zeher litziat Mitzrayim kibanu b'charta v'tanu kidashta mikol hamim umoadei kodshecha istasim ha'uzason yinchaltanu Baruch Adonai, Mikadesh Yisrael, Ve'hazamani.
L'chaim.
L'chaim.
L'chaim. So we're going to do the Shehekianu. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, shehekianu v'kiyamanu v'higianu lazman hazeh.
Amen.
And then all please join together with me in the English. Blessed are you, eternal our God, sovereign of the universe, for giving us life, sustaining us, and for enabling us to reach this season. And let us all say, Amen.
Amen. It's now time, if you have a moment, you want to wash your hands prior to the blessing over the carpus, as we were reminded constantly in our current situation to wash our hands as many times a day as we can before touching anything or touching our face or our eyes or anything like that. So I'll give anyone a moment if they want to go wash their hands as I go through this reading. The washing of hands is a ritual of purification. We symbolically wash away the thoughts of our daily activities and any remnants of the slave mentality created by the many years of servitude our ancestors endured in Egypt. Later in our Seder, we wash our hands again, say a blessing as we prepare to eat our festive meal. So as I dip my hands in a little bit of water to wash my hands, to purify a little bit, and I dry off. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav, al netilat yadayim. And we move on. Rabbi.
I'm going to likewise wash my hands a little bit, or my fingers anyway, and dry off. And this is a ritual we become very familiar with as we move into the Seder plate itself. And one more look at it so you can see it right up close. And here we are in the pictures. The symbols of Passover are represented on our table and our Seder plate. On our Seder plate, we have a green vegetable, in Hebrew carpus, bitter herbs, moror, a roasted shank bone, zoroa, a roasted egg, betzah, and a sweet condiment, charoset. You can see here each of those items, and this is like lettuce, and this is the parsley, which we'll dip into the salt water in just a minute or two, and this is the betzah, and the shank bone, which is not eaten but is a memory of the korbanot in the temple, and of course our favorite, charoset, which I've never really understood because it's supposed to symbolize the material used to make bricks that the slaves had to use to make construction, which is a bad thing, and yet the charoset is the most delicious food I eat all year practically. As we tell the story of our deliverance from Egypt, we shall explore the meaning of each of these symbols, as well as the significance of matzah, unleavened bread, Miriam's cup, and the cup of Elijah, which are on our Seder plate. And you probably saw the email going around where they show Elijah. You can't see Elijah, but he's got one of those masks on, which you can see. And they said, finally, we know when Elijah's arriving.
Blessing of the carpus, the fruits of the earth. Tonight we hold up our carpus, our parsley, if you have parsley, or whatever green vegetable. Tonight we praise God once again for creating the fruit of the earth, symbolized by the carpus, the green vegetable on our Seder plate. The first growth of spring, carpus represents rebirth and renewal. in the spirit of Passover, before we eat it, we dip the carpus in salt water. We do it so to remind ourselves of the tears shed by our ancestors while enslaved in Egypt. So you can pass the carpus around to people sharing with you. Grab it yourself as we dip in the salt water. And traditionally, generally, you drip all over the place and all over everything else on your Seder plate. As we hold it up after we dip, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei pri ha'adamah. Blessed are you, eternal, our God, sovereign of the universe, creator of the fruit of the earth. And we eat. Delicious. Matzah time.
Now, you may recall we have the 3 matzahs here. And so we now break the middle matzah in half. So I'm going to take the middle matzah and I'm going to break it in half. Oops, didn't come out exactly even, but that looks like it'll work out. The larger piece is called the afikomen. It is our tradition to hide the afikomen. After the meal, the young people at the Seder table, the virtual Seder table, hunt for it and return it, possibly for a reward, at least $20, so that the Seder may be completed. The search for the afikomen reminds us that it is the memory of freedoms that have been lost that inspires each generation to continue the pursuit of liberty, tolerance, and justice.
All together we read, "This is the bread of affliction that our ancestors ate in the land of Egypt. All who are hungry, let them come and eat. All who are in need, let them come and celebrate Passover with us. May it be God's will to redeem us from all trouble and all servitude. Next year at this season, may the whole house of Israel and all people be free, and may we all be able, hopefully at this time next year, be able to sit around the Seder table all together once again." As we prepare to sing, and the cantor sings for us, Halachmanya.
Halachmanya di'aulu, ahavatana be'ar ha'mitzrayim, kol di'pinyete v'teifu, kol di'tzrikyete v'yipsa, ashata chaleshanahapa, ve'ara de'Yisrael, ashata v'avdeh l'shanahaba, l'shanahaba v'nei chovim.
To our plate that held 3 pieces of matzah, we now return the second half of the middle matzah. For the oppressed, it is a symbol of hope. For free persons, it is a symbol of responsibilities of freedom. The story of the Exodus has brought hope to many peoples as they face their own struggle from freedom. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., in his speeches, rallies, and marches of the American Civil Rights Movement, explicitly invoked the story of the Exodus. The Exodus is something of the story of every people struggling for freedom. It is the first story of man's explicit quest for freedom, and it demonstrates the stages that seem to inevitably follow the quest for freedom. This is the power of the story of the Exodus. It is both a historical story and a contemporary symbol of hope. Having washed away the remnants of slave mentality, we acknowledge that, blessed with freedom, we have responsibilities as free persons. as articulated by the great 20th century philosopher, Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel, freedom means more than mere emancipation. Freedom presupposes the capacity for sacrifice. The glory of a free society lies not only in the consciousness of my right to be free and in the capacity to be free, but also in the realization of my fellow man and woman's right to be free and his or her capacity to be free. The issue we face is now to save mankind's belief in his capacity to be free. May the story of the Exodus continue to be a source of hope for all those who seek freedom from persecution and oppression, and be a reminder to those who are the beneficiaries of freedom's blessings of the responsibilities they shoulder as free persons. Tonight we recite again the story of the Exodus and give thanks to God for delivering us from freedom, from slavery to freedom. As family, friends, and neighbors, we, the beneficiaries of God's compassion, affirm our obligation to join with God and partner with one another to perform tikkun olam, repairing of the world, doing our part to help repair the world. As free persons, we break the middle matzah into small pieces as a reminder of our responsibilities in a world that is still broken.
We come now to my favorite part of the Seder, the 4 questions. And at our Passover Seder, we ask 4 questions. As we inquire, we all join together. Why is this night different from all other nights? The questions ask why there is a change in our everyday routine for our Passover evening meal. And of course, this year we ask, how is this Passover different from all our previous Passovers? By asking and answering these questions, we explore the meaning of Passover for our children and for all those at our Seder table. For those who are unacquainted with the Passover symbols and rituals, and for those who seek a deeper understanding of the story of the Exodus.
Ma nishtana halayla hazeh mikol haleilot, mikol haleilot, shebechol haleilot, anu ochlin chametzu matzah, chametzu matzah, halayla hazeh, kulo matzah. Halayla hazeh, kulo matzah. Shebechol halelot, anu ochlin she'ar yirakot, Halayla hazeh, maror, baror. Halayla hazeh, maror. Shebechol halelot, einanu matbilin, afilu pe'am echad, halayla hazeh, sheteh pe'amim, halayla hazeh, sheteh pe'amim. Shebechol halelot, anu ochlin ben yoshvin uven mesubin, ben yoshvin uven mesubin. Halayla hazeh, kulanu mesubin. Halayla hazeh, kulanu mesubin.
And that was the 4 questions, and now we come to the answers.
Abadim hayinu, ata b'nei chorin, Abadim hayinu, ata b'nei chorin,
We were slaves to Pharaoh in Egypt, and the eternal our God freed us from Egypt with a mighty hand and an outstretched arm.
Why, reply to the four questions. Why on this night do we eat only matzah? Matzah symbolizes both slavery and freedom. Matzah is our bread of affliction. It is a symbol of our rush to freedom, the food we ate when liberated from Egyptian bondage. When our ancestors rushed to leave Egypt, they did not have time to wait for their bread to leaven. During Passover, we eat matzah to remind us of our enslavement in Egypt and of the divine help we received during the Exodus.
Bitter herbs, maror, represent the bitterness of slavery. We eat bitter herbs later in our Seder ceremony so that we will never forget the bitter taste of oppression. And this is the bitter herbs right here. Whoops. There you go.
Carpus. Carpus is a symbol of renewed hope of the promise of spring. We dip carpus in salt water as a reminder that our ancestors viewed the hope of renewal through the tears of slavery. Later in our Seder, we shall combine maror and haroset. Maror is dipped or mixed with haroset to remind us that we withstood the bitterness of slavery because it was sweetened by the hope of freedom.
A pillow on our chair is a symbol of freedom. And the whole Seder is based on a Roman symposium, which was a Roman meal of showing certain historical realities in the lap of luxury, we could say. And so we want to say we were slaves, but now we are free. And being able to sit with a pillow and a comfortable chair is a sign of our newfound luxury. Historically, slaves sat on hard benches or on the floor when they ate, forced to rush through their meal in order to quickly return to work. For our ancestors, reclining on pillows or couches, eating at leisure, engaging in conversation, were symbols of freedom. Our pillows symbolize our ability to recline as free persons, declaring to the world that we will not be enslaved.
You ready for the four children, Rabbi?
Wow, look at these four children.
One is entirely a book. Can you believe that?
According to tradition, there are four types of sons and daughters of Israel. The wise one, Chacham, the wicked one, which one of the Haggadahs we looked at called Sassy, Rasha, the simple one, Tam, and the one who is unable to inquire or does not know what questions to ask, She'eno Yodea Lishol. By answering the questions of all of our children, we begin to fulfill our responsibility to pass to a new generation the story of God's mercy and might and our hope for the future. This Seder was put together almost 2,000 years ago, and the sages understood the concept that you have different types of students, and you have to teach in different ways in order to reach each type of student.
The wise one asks, what are the rulings, the laws, and the traditions that God has commanded to us? In Deuteronomy chapter 6, verse 20, Chacham mahu omer, ma ha'edot, v'hahukim v'hish patim asher tziva Adonai Eloheinu etchem. Our children are searching for wisdom and knowledge from the Seder experience. It is our obligation to help them gain a deeper understanding of God's teaching through the story of Exodus and strengthen their commitment to the pursuit of freedom, tolerance, and justice.
And we're fortunate to have in our religious school very, very inquisitive and wise children, which is very, very nice. The wicked one inquires, this is not good. What is this service to you? Rasha hu mahu omer, maha avada hazot lachem. Obviously, he's putting the onus on you, the other, not me, you. By saying to you and not to us, our children are distancing themselves from their community. It is our obligation to make the Seder a source of discovery of the spiritual foundation of Judaism, to help them, especially those who don't identify, strengthen the bonds connecting them to their family and to their community.
The simple one asks, what is this? Tam mahu omer, mazot. Our children are seeking to better understand the story of Exodus and the importance of the Seder. It is our obligation to help make the Seder an inspirational introduction to the study of the Jewish people's struggle for freedom through the generations, and not just our struggle, but to also shed light on the struggle of other people. It is easy to instruct, children about what other people, and compare what other people have gone through, and bring them into the struggles of other people when we connect them to our history. And the Passover story, the Seder, does exactly that.
For our sons and daughters who are unable to inquire or do not know what questions to ask, we begin. You shall explain to your child on that day, it is because of what God did for me when I went free from Egypt. V'she'eno yodeh l'shol, v'she'eno yodat l'shol, atem pitchu lechem, shenemar, v'gadata lebincha, hayom hahu lemor, v'avur zeh, asa Adonai, li b'tzeiti, mi Mitzrayim. It is our obligation to help our sons and daughters become involved in the joyful experience of the Seder, so that they may begin to feel a part of the Passover story of freedom and discover what questions they wish to ask.
The one who is wise, wicked, simple, and does not know what questions to ask resides within each of us. By fulfilling our obligations for the Seder, we learn more about ourselves and each other and make the story of Passover our own.
Yehi she'amda vehi she'amda la'avotenu belanu. Vehi she'amda vehi she'amda la'avotenu belanu. Shelo echad bilvad yaman aleinu l'sha'alotenu. Shelo echad bilvad amad aleinu l'halotenu. Ela shebechol dor vador omdim aleinu l'halotenu. Ela shebechol dor vador omdim aleinu l'halotenu. Yahal kadosh baruch hu matzilenu miyadam. Kadosh baruch hu matzilenu miyadam.
This is God's promise to our ancestors and to us. Although one individual stands against us to destroy us, another stands with us in difficult times. In every generation, when some are blinded by hate, others build bridges of understanding. The Holy One, our source of help, sustains us.
The Passover story of deliverance and redemption that we now recount has provided a shared sense of experience to the Jewish people for 3,000 years. Retold each year at our Seder, the biblical story continues to sustain and enrich our collective spirit. It is important that we remember when we have children, and probably most of you did this with your children, ask them before the story is told to see how much of the story they know. And if they don't know certain parts, then the rest of the Magid, the Magid fills in the holes in which they can't remember. The Torah tells us that when harsh famine engulfed the land of Canaan, our forefather Jacob and his household went down into Egypt. Joseph, one of Jacob's sons, was already in Egypt. Joseph had helped Pharaoh eliminate the threat of famine during 7 years of plentiful harvest. He was favored by Pharaoh, had risen high in the Egyptian court, and was able to provide possessions and security to his father and brothers.
Joseph and their families, at first strangers in the land, came to feel at home in Egypt. After the famine was over in Canaan, and it was possible to return to their homes, they remained, trusting that the memory of Joseph and their own contributions would keep them secure in Egypt.
Joseph and all that generation died, and the generations of Jacob and Joseph were fruitful and had multiplied. And a new Pharaoh rose over Egypt who did not know Joseph or the contributions that he and his household had made to Egyptian society over the generations. And Pharaoh said, "The people of the children of Israel are too many and too mighty for us. Come, let us deal
wisely with them, lest it come to pass that when we are at war, they join themselves unto our enemies and fight against us. Our ancestors were then forcibly enslaved. The Egyptians set over them taskmakers to afflict them with burdens and to build for Egyptian leaders royal cities and monuments."
And so Pharaoh commanded the death of all sons born to our ancestors enslaved in Egypt. But Shiphrah and Puah, the midwives present at the births, refused to obey Pharaoh and did not distinguish between sons and daughters. When one Israelite woman gave birth to a son, she hid him from the Egyptians. After he grew too old to hide, she put him in a basket and placed it among the reeds in the Nile.
His older sister hid nearby to see what would happen to her brother. You may have seen this in the animated film, The Prince of Egypt by Spielberg. When Pharaoh's daughter came to bathe in the river, she found the baby in the basket. The baby's sister offered to find her an Israelite woman to nurse the baby. The woman she brought was the baby's own mother. When he grew older, his mother returned the baby to Pharaoh's daughter, who adopted him. She named him Moses, meaning, "I drew him out of the water and raised him in Pharaoh's court."
Moses was adopted by the Egyptian royal family and grew to manhood as a prince of Egypt. When he was grown, he saw an Egyptian taskmaster beating a Jewish slave. Moses killed the taskmaster and was forced to leave Egypt, fleeing to the land of Midian. At an oasis, Moses came upon the daughters of Jethro, a Midianite priest, as they were drawing water from a well. Moses protected the woman from a band of bullying shepherds. After the daughters told their father what happened, he invited Moses to their home and soon offered Zipporah, his oldest daughter, to Moses as a wife.
God heard the cries of our ancestors in bondage in Egypt. One day, while Moses was tending Jethro's flock, God appeared to Moses through a burning bush, a bush that burned but miraculously was not consumed. God commanded Moses to return to Egypt and to tell Pharaoh to free the Israelites from slavery and oppression. On the journey, danger to Moses and his family was averted by the bravery and quick thinking of his wife, Zipporah.
In Egypt, Moses spoke the word of God to Pharaoh, saying, "Let my people go." When Pharaoh refused to release our ancestors from slavery, God afflicted the people and land of Egypt with 10 plagues, each one worse than the one before. It was only after the 10th plague the slaying of the firstborn, that Pharaoh yielded and allowed us to begin our departure from Egypt.
After his decision, Pharaoh had a change of heart and mobilized his army. As our ancestors approached the shores of the Red Sea, 7 days after our exodus from Egypt, they saw the Egyptian army pursuing them and were filled with fear. Unless we were able to cross the sea, Pharaoh would destroy us. God, however, did not at first part the waters for our passage to dry land.
The Midrash, a commentary that explains biblical text, teaches us that it was only after one man, Nachshon ben Aminadav, acting with the courage of a free person and ready to take the ultimate risk for freedom, walked into the undivided waters of the Red Sea, that God parted the waters. When the Egyptians pursued us into the sea, God saved us by causing the sea to close in on the Egyptians, drowning them.
And God brought us forth out of Egypt with a mighty hand and an outstretched arms, and with signs and wonders. Hotzeti Adonai miMitzrayim biyad chazaka, ubezroa nituya, b'mora gadol, ubeotot ubemoftim. And God commanded us to observe the Passover each year and to declare God's might and mercy to our children throughout all generations.
Though our ancestors were redeemed from slavery and we have rejoiced to see the oppressors overcome, our joys and triumphs are diminished by the suffering of others. Even as God saved us, God taught us not to rejoice in the suffering of other people. As the sea closed over the pursuing Egyptians, God declared, "My creatures are drowning, and you are singing?"
We now join together to recite each of the 10 plagues while removing a drop of wine from our cups. With this act, we lessen our joy, symbolically acknowledging the suffering of the Egyptians, and envision ourselves casting out every plague that threatens our humanity. As many of us rabbis have been speaking about the current plague as an 11th plague. In any case, we use a finger or a spoon, if you prefer, to take a little wine from your cup and place it on your plate. Everyone at the Seder table joins as we begin the 10 plagues.
Dam, Tzvardeya,
Ardea, Kinim,
Nim,
Arov,
Rov,
Dever,
Dever,
Shechin,
Shin,
Barad,
Arad,
Arbe,
Be,
Koshech, Makat
Akoch
Bechorot.
Bechorot. After crossing the Red Sea, our ancestors celebrated with song, praising the omnipotence of God. Tonight, we recite part of this song at the sea, giving thanks once again to God for our freedom and commemorating the splitting of the Red Sea as we join the cantor together in the singing of Mi Chamocha.
Mi chamocha ba'alim Adonai, mi chamocha nehedar b'kodesh, no tehilot, o sefer, no tehilot, o sefer.
Who is like you, God among the mighty? Who is like you, majestic in holiness, awesome in splendor, working wonders? God will reign forever and ever.
According to a midrash, the prophet Miriam predicted the birth of her baby brother Moses, guarded him as he floated down the Nile, witnessed Pharaoh's daughter drawing him out of the river, and arranged for their mother to care for the infant Moses. Celebrating their safe crossing of the Red Sea, Miriam led women in joyous dancing. According to the rabbis, God honored Miriam's bravery and devotion to the Jewish people by giving her a well filled with water, which miraculously accompanied our ancestors throughout their journey in the desert. Miriam's well quenched the thirst and renewed the spirit of our ancestors as they overcame the hardships of the Exodus. We have placed on this Seder table this cup of Miriam. It is filled with water to honor Miriam's role, ensuring our people's survival during our 40-year journey in the desert. We now each take a sip of water to remember this remarkable woman who was a prophet and a guardian of our people.
We now join the cantor for the singing of Dayenu.
Ilu Hotzianu mi Mitzrayim, Hotzianu mi Mitzrayim, Dayenu, 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 Dayenu. Ilu Natan lanu et hashabat, Natan lanu et hashabat, Dayenu, 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 Dayenu. Ilu Natan lanu et haTorah, Natan lanu et haTorah, Dayenu, 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 Dayenu.
Should enemies again rise against us, the remembrance of the Exodus from Egypt will never fail to inspire us with new courage and strengthen our faith in God, who redeems the oppressed. Exploring the meaning of the Passover symbols helps us to remember. Rabban Gamliel, one of Judaism's great scholars, taught that whoever does not discuss or expound upon the symbolic meaning of the three things. Number one, Pesach, the shank bone, which I have right here. The matzah, right here. And moror, the bitter herbs, right here, all red, has not truly celebrated the Passover festival. What is the meaning of Pesach? Please join with me. The shank bone reminds us that God passed over our houses and spared us on the watch night. When Pharaoh refused to release us from slavery, God afflicted the people of Egypt with the 10th plague, the slaying of the firstborn. The doorposts of our houses were marked with lamb's blood, so that God would pass over our homes and our lives would be spared. As God has saved us from all kinds of distress, so may God always inspire us with courage to remove every trace of bondage among all people. What is the meaning of matzah? And also, can you see? We join together. Matzah is unleavened bread that symbolizes both slavery and freedom. It is our bread of affliction and
and
a
the symbol of the divine help we
we
received
received
when we were liberated from Egyptian bondage.
As God has saved us from all kinds of distress, so may God always inspire us with courage to remove every trace of bondage among all peoples. What is the meaning of the maror? Maror is a bitter herb. It reminds us that the lives of our ancestors were made bitter from the oppression of Egyptian slavery. As God has blessed us with freedom, so may God always inspire us to be messengers of God's word to those in need of hope.
This is the power of our Seder in the story of the Exodus. It is a shared Jewish experience that has historical and contemporary significance to persons of all faiths. As we leave Egypt and carry the events of the Exodus into our daily lives, let us give thanks and offer praises to God for the miracles we have seen together as we raise our cup of wine. Therefore, we are bound to thank, praise, laud, glorify, extol, honor, and bless, exalt, revere the eternal our God, who performed all these miracles for our mothers and fathers and for us. God brought us forth from slavery to freedom, from sorrow to joy, from mourning to festivity, and from servitude to redemption. Let us therefore sing a new song in God's presence. Hallelujah. Lefikach anachnu hayavim lehodot, lechalel, leshabeach, lepaer, litromem, lechader, levarech, lealeh, ulkales, lemisha asa, leavotenu, ulimotenu, velanu et kol hanisim ha'ele. Vahotzianu ma'avdot lecherut, miyagon lisimcha, me'evel leyom tov, umafe'ela la'or gadol, umishabor ligula, v'noamar lefanav shira chadasha. Hallelujah.
Our rabbis teach that Hallel, psalms of gratitude and praise, were sung to God at the shores of the Red Sea. We sing God's praises now for redeeming us from persecution, oppression, and slavery, and for the promise of freedom and peace for all peoples. Hallelujah. O servants of God, give praise. Praise the name of God.
Let the name of God be blessed now and forever.
From the rising of the sun to its going down, the name of God is praised.
God is exalted above all nations. God's glory is above the heavens.
Who is like the eternal our God, who enthroned on high,
sees what is below in heaven and on earth,
who raises the poor from the dust, lifts up the needy from the ashes,
to set them with the greats of God's people. Hallelujah.
When Israel went forth from Egypt, the house of Jacob from a people of strange speech,
Judah became God's sanctuary, Israel God's dominion.
The sea saw them and fled. The Jordan flowed backward.
The mountains skipped like rams, hills like sheep.
What frightened you, O sea, that you fled? Jordan, that you flowed backward?
Mountains that you skipped like rams, hills like sheep.
Tremble, O earth, at the presence of God, at the presence of the God of Jacob,
who turned the rock into a pool of water, the flinty rock into a fountain.
Now we remember God's promise to our ancestors and to every generation. I will deliver you from their bondage, Bitzalti etchem me'avdutchem. We drink the second cup of wine to celebrate the survival of the Jewish people. We're still here. We remember how, enslaved in Egypt thousands of years ago, we retained our belief in God. Our faith and hope for the future gave us the will to survive and ultimately the strength to pursue the freedom promised by God.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen.
Amen.
Blessed are you, eternal our God, sovereign of the universe, creator of the fruit of the vine. And now everybody says, 1, 2, 3, Amen.
Amen.
And then we drink.
The blessings of matzah immediately follow the blessing for washing hands without interruption. No, I'm interrupting it. The blessing may be read or chanted by the reader, or in unison, the reader may read the blessing in Hebrew, for whatever they choose. When we began our Seder, we had 3 pieces of matzah on the plate. We now break and distribute the upper matzah. So if there are people around you, you can break the top matzah, spread it around, share it with others who may be there. I know there's a couple that may have 1 or 2 people with you so that they can share. Before performing this mitzvah of eating the Passover matzah on our festival meal, we wash our hands and recite the blessing. So I'm going to dip my fingers, my hands again. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al netilat yadayim. Blessed are you, eternal our God, sovereign of the universe, who has sanctified us with your commandments and has commanded us concerning the washing of our hands.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen. Blessed are you, eternal our God, sovereign of the universe, who brings forth bread from the earth. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al ha'chlilat matzah. Blessed are you, eternal our God, sovereign of the universe, who has sanctified us with your commandments and has commanded us concerning the eating of unleavened bread.
Amen.
Amen. In preparation for eating maror, it is customary to dip the bitter herbs into the sweet charoset, but not enough to take away the taste of bitterness. By doing so, we fulfill the second dipping referred to in the 4 questions. Since maror is a symbol of bitter enslavement and reclining is a symbol of freedom, we do not recline when we eat maror. Okay, so we put a little bit of maror and a little bit of charoset, and technically the maror should go on top of the charoset, like that, and then we're all set. Right, we join together in Hebrew and English. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al achilat maror. In English, blessed are you, eternal our God, sovereign of the universe, who sanctified us with your commandments and has commanded us concerning the eating of bitter herbs. And let us say, Amen. Okay.
Amen. The Hillel sandwich. Those of you who know me, this is like one of my least favorite things. And to carry out the injunction, they shall eat it with unleavened bread and bitter herbs. our great sage Hillel combined matzah and maror on Passover and ate them together. Tonight we eat a sandwich of matzah, maror, and haroset to remember that in times of freedom, we must not forget the bitterness of slavery, and in times of oppression, we must keep alive the hope of freedom. So you would take, a piece of matzah, as the rabbi said, with a little, haroset and the maror on top, and then you combine it together with a little bit.
Whoa! My sandwich fell apart onto my laptop.
And then you eat it all together. I'm eating a tiny one because I know I can't take it. I'm not a friend person. And then you would eat it as a custom. You make the sandwich. We're almost to the part where we eat. We're almost there. Oh. Ugh. The afikomen is a Hebrew word based on the Greek, meaning that which comes after the meal. After the meal, you generally, you want to get an opportunity. If you have children in the house, or no matter what age your children might be, it's great to, while they eat, it's a great opportunity for you to hide it. And I have many great stories and some great advice. Always hide the afikomen in plain sight, where people usually don't think to look. I have many stories, I've heard of stories of people tearing apart houses, and particularly some people who have joined us now, some doors over the years have been broken, trying to find the afikomen, but sometimes the best place to hide it is in plain sight. Now, those of you children of any age who find the afikomen, it is best to negotiate with a good lawyer, and a president of our congregation is a very good one who's free to represent you in negotiations for it. Start the bidding somewhere at around $15 to $20, and then work your way from there. Have fun with it. Enjoy finding the afikomen. And now to the rabbi for a moment of Torah.
The Torah states that we should remember the day we left Egypt, all the days of your life. Our rabbis tell us that by adding the word all to the phrase, the days of your life, the Torah includes nights as well as days. Also, our rabbis say that the days of your life refers to the world in which we live, and the addition of the word all includes the world to come, the Messianic age. According to tradition, this is my favorite part, Andre. The prophet Elijah will announce the coming of the Messianic age, a time when all people shall live in dignity, freedom, and peace. Even as we shall rejoice in the coming of the Messianic age, so shall we remember even then our obligation to conduct a Passover Seder each year and remember the day we left Egypt. Now we remember God's promise to our ancestors and to every generation. I will redeem you with an outstretched arm and great acts of judgment. As we drink the third cup of wine, we celebrate the holy bonds between family and friends and our sacred connection to all men, women, and children of every race, religion, and creed. May the goodwill in each of us draw us closer to one another, strengthening the ties between us so that we may help each other through hard times, as well as joyfully celebrate good times together.
Yes, amen.
Together, let us raise the third cup of wine and say, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Blessed are you, eternal our God, sovereign of the universe, creator of the fruit of the vine. Amen.
Amen.
Please join me. And here's the cup of Elijah. It's got his name on it. Eliyahu Hanavi, Eliyahu Hatisbi, Eliyahu, Eliyahu, Eliyahu Hagiladi, Imera Beyameinu Yabo Eleinu, Immashiach ben David, Immashiach ben David, Eliyahu Hanavi, Eliyahu Hatishbi, Eliyahu, Eliyahu, Eliyahu Hagilati.
As a community, we give thanks for the teachings of the story of Passover, which we shall remember all the days of our lives.
And for the symbols of Passover that inspire us to work for freedom for all.
As a community, we give thanks to God for our deliverance from bondage in Egypt and from those who have sought to destroy us in every age.
And for the reminder that in this world, God's work to create the Messianic age must truly be our own.
As a community, we give thanks for the love of family and for the gift of our extended family of friends and neighbors.
And for the experience of this Passover Seder that brings us closer to God, to our families, to our temple family, and to one another.
With words of praise, we celebrate God's presence among us, now and in the days ahead, as we give thanks for the freedom we enjoy and our ability to come together and celebrate even under these difficult circumstances because of the advances of technology. The festival of Passover each year, and specifically under these circumstances this year. Now we remember God's promise to our ancestors and to every generation. I will take you to be my people, and I will be your God. V'lakachti etchem li la'am, v'ayiti lachem l'Elohim. We dedicate the fourth cup of wine to Shalom, to peace. May the one who broke Pharaoh's yoke forever shatter all fetters of oppression and hasten the day when swords shall, at last, be turned into plowshares and spears into pruning hooks.
Together, let us raise the fourth cup of wine as we bless the wine. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei pari hagafen. Amen. Blessed are you, eternal our God, sovereign of the universe, creator of the fruit of the vine. Amen.
Amen.
Tonight, we have given thanks to God by saying a blessing over how many cups of wine? 4.
4.
As we celebrated the sanctity of every life, the survival of the Jewish people, the holiness of our bond to every family member, and the meaning of Shalom, peace. Let's join together. May this
Seder provide us with new spirit and energy in the year ahead as we strive to meet the challenges to life's sweetness. May all peoples soon know freedom and peace. Oh, there we go. Ken yehi ratzon.
May God bless you and keep you.
Yar Adonai, panav elecha v'chunecha.
Ken yehi ratzon.
May God's light shine upon you, and may God be gracious to you.
Yisod Adonai, panav elecha, v'yasem lecha shalom.
Ken yehi ratzon.
May God's presence be within you always, and may you find peace, happiness, and much love. And let us all say, Amen.
Amen.
Listen, Abba, Abba, Rushalayim. 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 Listen,
Rabbi, concluding words.
I want to wish everyone a happy Passover. I hope that you have made a delicious Passover meal or that you picked one up from Tempe's, either way. And so we look forward to seeing you on Zoom very soon. We're going to have our Kabbalah session tomorrow, 1 p.m. And we're hoping to do a live streaming Kabbalah Shabbat service Friday night. And we're hoping to start a lot more programs.
Just a
Shana Tova and happy Passover.
Just a reminder that this entire Seder will be available on our website, on the homepage of our website very soon. So if you want to use it, either if you're using it for tomorrow night Seder or you want to share it with a friend, a link will be available on our website for you to view the entirety of the Seder. To everyone, have a wonderful and hopefully a connected Passover, where by any means, by technology, by taking a walk with someone, and being mindful of the 6 feet of separation, have a connected Passover where we are able to share some of our freedom together as a community. Cantor.
Yes, let's
Any concluding
verse
words?
or two, and then let's go to Tev on it, okay?
Yes, indeed.
Adirhu, Yibne Veto Bikarov, Im Eira, V'yamenu Bikaro, El B'nei, I'm your biggest fan too, I think. I love it.
To everyone, Hug Sameach, everyone. Hopefully you found the afikomen. After the meal, you find the afikomen. Enjoy your meals. We hope to see everyone very, very soon. Hug Sameach, everyone. Be well. Be well.
Be safe.
He was on all the time. We weren't on, I don't
Nope.
think at all, were we?
No, I know, but they were on, they saw us.
We did?
And so tomorrow we'll see it.
Okay.
We're still there.